Today, we will talk about fiscal policy, what it is, why it matters, and examples. Fiscal policy is the use of government spending and tax policies to influence economic conditions, like demand for goods and services, employment, inflation, and economic growth. In simpler terms, it's how the government manages money to keep the economy on track. For example, during a recession, the government might lower tax rates or increase spending to encourage demand. The opposite can happen when there's too much inflation. Fiscal policy is based on ideas from the British economist John Maynard Keynes, who believed that economic recessions are due to a lack of consumer spending and business investment. He thought that the government could regulate economic output by adjusting spending and tax policies to make up for any shortfalls in the private sector. His theories led to the New Deal in the U.S., involving massive spending on public projects and social welfare programs. Keynesian economists believe private sector components are too variable and dependent on emotional factors to maintain sustained economic growth. They argue that government taxation and spending can be used to counteract the excesses and deficiencies of private sector consumption and investment spending. When private sector spending decreases, the government can spend more and/or tax less to increase demand. Conversely, when the private sector is overly optimistic and spends too much, the government can spend less and/or tax more to reduce demand. This is what we call expansionary or contractionary fiscal policies, respectively. An example of expansionary fiscal policy is when the government issues tax stimulus rebates to increase demand and fuel economic growth. This approach is based on the idea that lower taxes lead to more money to spend, which then leads to increased demand, employment, and wage growth. Here are 5 key takeaways. 1. Fiscal policy refers to the use of government spending and tax policies to influence economic conditions. 2. Fiscal policy is largely based on ideas from British economist John Maynard Keynes. 3. Keynes argued that governments could stabilize the business cycle and regulate economic output rather than let markets right themselves alone. 4. An expansionary fiscal policy lowers tax rates or increases spending to increase aggregate demand and fuel economic growth. 5. A contractionary fiscal policy raises rates or cuts spending to prevent or reduce inflation. Hope this would help. Thanks for watching.